Hey, it's David Meerman Scott. I'm here with my friend Chris Brogan. Hello, Chris,
Hi,
from
David.
chrisbrogan.com. And the reason I wanted to have a moment with you, Chris, is that both of us been talking about, getting people onto blogs, getting people onto Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot. And one of the things that's remarkable about you and what you do is how popular you've become. I mean, it's amazing. You got a top 100 blog in the world. Do you know what number you are these days?
50 something.
The number 50 something or other blog in the world. Every time you do a post, there's 50 or 100 comments to it. You've got, what, 70,000 or something or other people on Twitter right now.
Sure.
So what's the difference between just being a blogger, just being someone on Twitter, and someone like you who's incredibly popular? Have you got a secret you can share?
A secret. So the number one thing I do in both what I do with Twitter and blogging is I'm helpful. I try my hardest to find information that's useful to you. I try to find information that will be shareable in a way that you can do something with it. There's a real big difference between saying, I just figured out how to, versus here's how you can, and I think B will always win over A. The secret to getting lots of comments is to ask questions and to not seem like the definitive authority. A blog post that makes you seem like the authority is awesome in sort of securing your position as a thought leader, but not as in getting more people to care about what you're interested in. I think that being helpful also goes into being responsive. So I more so in Twitter than on my blog, but even with 70,000 followers, I reply as much as I can. The number on my replies right now is between 70 and 80% on any given time frame. So if you look at certain tweet stat type programs, or even if you just look at twitter.com/Chris Brogan, you'll see @messages are my number one thing I'm doing there, which means that my stream isn't really tuned for noise versus signal. I tend to reply a lot to people, but it also means that I'm human, and I think that sort of prevails in the end.
Do you have any idea how many times you're doing one of those responses? I mean, it must be hundreds a day. It must be a few hundred a day, right?
Sure.
And you usually choose to respond to your whole stream as opposed to doing a direct response back to somebody?
So there's a reason I reply to the whole stream, and one is that I hope that other people will catch the reply going by sometimes and get the same answer that they might have wanted but didn't know they wanted. That happens a lot. I'll respond to one person and I'll get 20 other people comment on that response. The other reason is that it shows in public, in a public face, I am being responsive. Whereas if I go to direct message, which is probably more polite to everybody, it also says that I'm being more private. And so I think it's very publicly showing that I'm being a public person.
It's interesting because I've been doing the opposite, and I perhaps am going to take a page out of your book and do this. I will respond to everyone. I hope. There's probably been some times I've slipped up, but I'll often do it privately.
Oh, sure.
More often than I'll do it publicly, but interesting way to go public. One more question, last question. Seems like you have a blog post every single day. Is that true?
I try for at least one a day. Sometimes I get it up to two, but last week I faltered a little because I was running a conference, but otherwise, yes.
Do you pre-write them? Do you have them stacked up and ready to go, or are you like frantic at 8 o'clock at night trying to figure out what you're going to blog about the next morning?
I do a little bit of both. I tend to write, when I'm on a writing jag, I can write 3 or 4 at a time, and then I might stack a few away for the future. But then what will always inevitably happen is I'll push those off and push those off because something new will catch my attention. And I sort of live to blog in a lot of ways. I get out there, I find new things. I'm always snapping photos that will spur a blog post that gets me thinking, or I'll have a customer service experience, and that becomes a blog post. So I guess by the nature of the things I like to write about and the way I like to share things, I always have more to write about than I have less to write about. But when I write usually is either sort of later in the nighttime, because I have little kids, very early in the morning, or on rare occasion, I'll stack up a few posts while I'm on an airplane.
Right. Great. Hey, thanks. Chris Brogan from chrisbrogan.com.
My pleasure.